Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. Very interesting details are coming from Bakhmut Artyom's direction. According to information we have, the Russians continue advancing from the village by the name of Kurdyumovka to the northwest along the channel, and as a result of those attacks the Ukrainians were forced to step back, and currently the Russians are trying to dig in deeper and to completely clear the territory that located the tree lines and the territory that located on the northeast of the village. So this territory is from now on under Russian control. Furthermore, very heavy clashes are taking place along the railways from Klishchiivka to Avdiivka. The Russians from their side are trying to split this territory in two parts, and they're trying to attack and advance between Avdiivka and the Ukrainian positions in Klishchiivka and the tree lines and the forest belts to the south of Klishchiivka. So this is the Russian attack. Currently, they're trying to penetrate the Ukrainian defense belt. From the other side, the Ukrainians are trying to counterattack, but along the railways, from, let's say, fields and central part of Klishchiivka in direction of the tree lines and in direction of the railways that located a little bit to the north of Avdiivka. So this is the main direction of Ukrainian attacks. And the thing is that according to geolocation information we have, there is a foothold of the Ukrainians on the Russian side of the railways. So this area is under Ukrainian control. And as you can see, the distance between Russian and Ukrainian positions and supply road that the Ukrainians have is too slow, and it's very difficult to send reinforcements in this direction. And maybe the Ukrainians even took a decision to withdraw their positions from this side to save the personnel and to evacuate the Ukrainians towards more reliable positions. But to do this, they need to counterattack the Russian forces that located along the railways. So this is the current situation on this territory. Very difficult to understand the exact Ukrainian plans, or they want to save the foothold and to save this territory under Ukrainian control, and that's why they're trying to counterattack to increase this territory, or they're planning to withdraw their positions. So that's why they also need to counterattack and to force the Russians to step back. When talking about Klishchiivka, the Russians, according to information we have, were bombing this territory heavily. The main goal of the Russians were to suppress Ukrainian artillery positions, mortar positions, sniper positions, machine gun positions. So that was something like artillery preparation before the next waves of attack. Now we're moving to Chernobyl, its residential area. The Russians complete the clearing of this territory, and the next target of the Russian forces is to attack the Ukrainians on the X airfield. This is a very small, probably farm airfield, very small one as you can see, but now there are very heavy clashes for this territory. The Russians are storming. I'll remind you that this territory, this area of attack, direction of attack is under responsibilities of Kherson Special Unit Ahmad. The Ukrainians are still there. They're trying to repel the Russian attack, but if the Ukrainians are defeated in this area, then they will be forced to step back further to the tree line, basically to Ivanovska itself. So now the most interesting and important part of the battle for Chernobyl has started. And as you can see, according to this information, now this territory is in the gray zone, and the Russians are trying to advance on this direction. So they're trying to get closer to Ivanovska from the southeast. Now we're moving to the north to Khromovo. According to information we have, just during the previous night, the Russians managed to complete the clearing of the energy facilities area, this one. So just this night, the previous night, or maybe the previous few days, the Russians established control over this territory, and according to the Russians, they continue advancing further in direction of Ivanovska along the this water reservoir from the northern and from the southern part of this reservoir. So this is the Russian progress. This is the Russian attempts to attack. Currently, this territory is in the gray zone. There are no updates about the fact that the Russians managed to establish 100% control over this territory, but the Russians are moving further. Now we are moving to Bohdanivka area. We have few updates, few geolocations from this territory. According to information we have, the Russians have just now entered and get the railway station. This is the railway station by the name of Vasilievka, or just a second, Bohdanivka, Ivanovka. Valyanovka. So this is the railway station Valyanovka. The Russians currently entered this territory and are trying to force the Ukrainians to step back. there is like clearing operation of this territory. So according to this geolocation, according to information we have, the main purpose of the Russians is to establish complete control over this territory. A few days ago we have updated that the Russians have already captured this area, but we still haven't received any updates, and according to some Russians, just now the main clashes are started. Furthermore, the Russians are moving from almost the same territory to the south in direction of the cemetery. This is the cemetery, and the Russians are also storming this territory right now. And if they can take a railway station Valerianovka, it will also allow them to start movements in direction of the cemetery from another direction. So this is the clashes and the situation on this territory. If the Russians are able to capture these like tree lines and this cemetery, then they will be able to get the Popovsky forest, this one, and to start storming the probably the most important hill and the final point of their destination. After this Popovo forest, the Russians will be able to secure the flanks and start attacking Ivanovska from the north. Now we are moving to Bohdanivka. The Russians during the previous night were bombing the tree lines heavily. We got another geolocated video from this area, probably the fourth during the previous 3 days. So that means a certain focus of the Russians. They understand that this is the most important Ukrainian positions that they used to control the situation in Bohdanivka and even further, even along the railways. So it's like the primary target for the Russians. It's a vital question for the Russians to completely suppress this territory, and if they can do this, then it will be much more easier for them to attack the Ukrainians, not just from the south but also from the north. According to information we have, the Russians launch also another offensive operation along these tree lines in direction of this hill. So this is another storm operation that the Russians are trying currently to implement on this direction. I'll remind you that this is the hill that the Russians are trying to capture. So this is the situation about Bohdanivka and about Bakhmut, about Klishchiivka and Andreevka. As you can see, very heavy clashes starting from Kurdyumovka to Grigorovka. Now we are moving to Avdiivka area. We also have a lot of updates from this territory. Most of the sources have already confirmed that Ukrainians took a decision to step back from Stepova, and they're trying to dig in deeper on the eastern outskirts of the village, trying to the fortifications has been already prepared. There is no problem with this. It's the Berdichi wasn't reduced to ruins. The only problem with Berdichi is that this village is located in the lowland in comparison with Stepova. But according to information we have, according to the most of the Russian experts, the Russians there is no presence of the Russians in the western part of Stepova, and the main reason of that is that this part of the village was reduced to ruins and there are no places where the Russians can hide. So that's why the Russians changed their focus, and during the previous days we had a lot of updates that the Russians were attacking along the railways in direction of Ocheretina, in the direction of the area of responsibilities of 31st Mechanized Brigade. As you can see, the map has been updated according to that, but now as I understand, the next target for the Russians, they're going to cut this area like a small piece of cake as well as Rabotina. The next target the Russians will try to capture is this tree line, and just to maintain and to shorten the front line on the northern flank of Stepova. Also, the Russians are not going to attack Berdichi in front. Like, this is not going to be attack that we are going to see the next days because of very powerful and strong fortification area on the eastern part of Berdichi. It's like it's a very big and very powerful stronghold. So that's why the Russians will try to attack this area from the north. And the next thing that we're going to see on this territory is attempt from the Russian side to capture these tree lines, which will allow the Russians to get as close as possible to Berdichi and the main Ukrainian stronghold in Berdichi from the north, and to get these tree lines. So this is the possible plans of the Russians, at least in this area. Now we are moving to the southern part of Stepova. There are also lots of problems. We still haven't received any geolocations and any proofs that the Russians control this territory, this one. So obviously the next few days they will try to improve their position, and the main reason of that is that Ukrainians left Stepova completely. But I'm not sure that the Russians are able to do this because the Ukrainians still have possibilities to counterattack the Russians from chemical plant and from Orlovka along these tree lines. So maybe the Russians the next days will not be able to clear this gray zone. When talking about Mykhailivka, we have few interesting and important updates. First of all, the Russians continue bombardments of the eastern part of the village, and the main purpose of these attacks is not to suppress the Ukrainian forces or positions in the eastern flank of Novomykhailivka. Obviously, there are no Ukrainian forces, maybe just few soldiers. The main reason of all these attacks that we can see, that you can see right now, that you could see yesterday and the day before yesterday. For example, if you increase the number of days since the beginning of the week, we see a significant number of bombardments of this territory. The main reason is that the Russians, using these attacks, try to demine this territory. And for example, this morning we got update that the Russians launched another wave of attack on the eastern part of the village. So maybe today we're going to receive some first updates about the Russian entrance in the eastern part of Novomykhailivka. Furthermore, some mappers have already updated the Ukrainian control and Russian control on the south of Novomykhailivka. For example, Syriac says that as a result of Ukrainian counter-offensive operation, they managed to force the Russians to step back from the warehouses and from the farms. To tell the truth, I think and I suppose that maybe the Russians haven't entered this territory at all. So it was like a small speculation from different mappers, and now like the mappers are trying to correct the zone, correct the territory, showing that there are no that the Ukrainians counterattacked, but the Ukrainians didn't counterattack. Maybe the Russians just didn't enter. So we will adjust the map as I understand before the next video. Now we are moving to Zaporizhzhia area, to Bradley Square. The Russians continue storming of Ukrainian positions along the tree lines on the northwestern part of Robotina. We got more details, more confirmations, geolocated videos from this area. On this sense, we can see how the Russian Babri FPV drone operators were attacking and bombing the Ukrainian forces. So this is like, as we discussed yesterday, the Russians made few attempts to attack on this area. Maybe these FPV drone strikes is the part of the previous offensive operation. But anyway, we see a certain focus of the Russians in this territory. Now we are moving to Kherson direction. Very interesting details are coming from this area. The Russians, as usually, continue bombardments of Krynki with stealth flamethrower systems. The Ukrainians, from their side, try to attack and slow down the Russian storming troopers. We have another geolocated video from both sides, how the Russians were trying to land infantry and attack Krynki with marines, but something went wrong. The Russian armored vehicles were damaged as a result of FPV drone strikes from the Ukrainian side. But no matter regarding the situation, regarding the attacks, the Russians managed to evacuate the personnel and to leave this territory without any casualties and losses. So the situation remains the same in Krynki. Interesting video we got from Kherson. If you remember, in November we were talking that and Ukrainian media, official media, were showing us a lot of videos, a lot of interesting geolocations videos about the Ukrainian ammo depot and production of Navy drones. The Ukrainians were showing us these drones. They're saying that they have a production, they can produce hundreds of Navy drones per month, that they will use them to block the Black Sea and to force the Russians to leave the Black Sea and something like this. But if you remember, a few days ago, we received lots of updates that the Russians were bombing Kherson heavily. There was like a video geolocated fire anomaly in Kherson, and there was a report that the Russians attacked some ammo depots in this area. And today we got another photo. This is the results of those strikes, and as you can see, this is the area, this is the warehouse that Ukrainians, according to them, created the production of Navy drones. So somehow the Russians managed to discover this position and basically to destroy it. So there are no more production of Navy drones for the Ukrainians. Also, during the previous night, the Russians attacked and bombed all over the entire Ukraine with Gerain drones. Some of them the Ukrainians were trying to shut down using the air defense system, but most of the Russian drones got the target and destroyed the Ukrainian some infrastructure, accumulation, concentration of forces. There was a very heavy explosion also in Kiev. On this video we can see how a Ukrainian man was making a video from his own apartments, and at some point the Russian drone hit the building, the top floor of high-rise building. Furthermore, let's finish the video with another update about the mobilization. More and more information is coming that Ukrainians are planning to force refugees back and to send them to the front. I believe that this is going to happen. Why is that? Because this should be like an accident, should be the first case in the legal practice of Europe, because it's something like media preparation of European population that maybe at some point the Europeans will be also sent to the front line. And first, it's better if the NATO countries are planning to send, let's say, Europeans at some point to Ukraine. First of all, of course, it's better to start sending Ukrainians and to start showing this picture in the media, like to start preparation. You can't start sending like citizens of France or Germany, let's say, tomorrow to Ukraine to fight with Russians. First, it's better to send someone from France, from Germany, but not the citizens of France or Germany, but let's say Ukrainians. And this is going to be something normal in time, and after that it will be much more easy to start sending in the local population of these countries. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes to my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.